Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. We'll have a roll call.
Roll call. Chairperson Keller. Vice Chairperson Baker.
Here.
Board Member Babcock.
Here.
Board Member Huddleston.
Here.
Board Member Lawson.
Here.
Board Member Thurkel.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, I'll now entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the March 25th, 2021 Board of Adjustment meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the March 25th meeting.
Okay, motion's been made. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion on those minutes? No discussion appearing. I will call for a vote.
Vice Chairperson Baker.
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Huddleston.
Yes.
Lawson.
Aye.
Thurkel.
Yes.
All right. All in favor.
Great. Okay, we have approval of findings of fact. We need to entertain a motion of the findings of fact and conclusions of law for the requested variance for the property located at 200 Barclay Lane during the March 25th, 2021 Board of Adjustment meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, let's call for a vote.
Vice Chairperson Baker.
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Huddleston.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes.
Thurkel.
Yes.
All in favor.
Great. Okay, item number 3. I will now call for, we have a request for variance, which was filed by the applicant and property owner, and I'm gonna really apologize for not being prepared on the name, but Mr. Hashko, did I get it correct? I hate to butcher names, so I apologize. I hate when names get butchered. Will the secretary please provide the introduction for this item?
Mr. Chairperson, this is a request for a variance for Branson Municipal Code 94-37C dimensions for the property located at 150 Malone Drive, Branson, Missouri.
Okay, before we proceed, please note that we are recording tonight's meeting. Is it also being broadcast on the internet? It is being broadcast on YouTube, and so be aware of that as well. Before you speak at in this public hearing, we will have you sworn in by the recorder. Once they have finished, we will ask you then to please state your name, spell your name for the record, and then give your address. At this time, I will now open the public hearing for Mr. Hashko's request for a variance. We will hear the report on the variance from the city staff. Then we will hear from the applicant. This will be followed by public comments. Everybody who wishes to speak tonight will have an opportunity to be heard. I just ask that you be mindful of everybody's time, refrain from making comments that are repetitive, and we ask that the members of the public to please try to keep your individual comments to 5 minutes or less. And once again, I will remind everybody the meeting is being recorded and broadcasted.
This is Attorney Tim Davis. That's obvious nonsense. Nobody's going to think that Joel is going to be biased because he and Jim once worked in the same office years ago. There's no basis for that. By the same token, nobody's going to think that Jim Lawson's going to be biased because he knows Joel or because he knows the other members of the staff. The same could be said about anyone who's lived in Branson. Doug, you certainly have known Joel for a long time. It doesn't mean that you're going to be biased about Joel. If any member of the board will certainly know the staff here. It's not as though the members of the Board of Adjustment can control Joel's salary. Nobody has a hammer over him that says, Joel, we want you to do this, this, and this, otherwise we're going to fire you or otherwise harm your employment. I don't think there's any basis for saying that the board's going to be somehow biased or that Joel's going to be somehow biased just because everybody has known each other from times past. Thank you.
That is something I'm not prepared for, so I don't know. We
Obviously, the
address the
city
city
attorney is here
attorney.
if you have any questions.
Objection's been made on the record, I would go forth.
Okay, objection's been on the record, and we'll go ahead and proceed.
Yes, please. I do. So my name is Joel Hornicle. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the City of Branson. First off, good evening, Chairperson, members of the board. It's great to be together again here in the council chambers as opposed to virtual as we did our last meeting. Just to first orient everyone on the subject property for the item requested this evening. The clicker is not working. Yeah. If you could just help me, if you wouldn't mind. You can flip it for me if that's okay. Okay. There's not that many slides. Perfect, thank you. So as I said, just to get everybody oriented to the subject property, we've got the three properties outlined by the applicant here in purple. This is an aerial image to depict that it is on the south side of Malone Drive and on the east side of Iserman. This is within the Lakeview Terrace subdivision within the city of Branson. Our next slide shows the current zoning of the property as well as the surrounding properties, all to be low-density residential, as shown with the yellow. The next is our existing land use map, again showing this property as well as the other properties owned by the applicant and surrounding properties in that faint yellow, which is low-density residential as well. So moving on, we want to give some history of this particular property as well as the surrounding properties. The first item we're looking at here is the Lakeview Terrace subdivision plat that was recorded with the county back in 1947. This is also Exhibit 3 within your packet. To support, as shown on the subdivision plat, the three lots outlined in red, lots 5, 6, and 7, we also have exhibits included in your packet, the next one being Exhibit 4, which is the mapping information provided by Taney County, otherwise known as Beacon. As you can see on this slide, the properties are outlined in yellow. However, there are also red lines that identify separation between lots 5, 6, and 7. The next is Exhibit 5 within our packet. That is a letter certified by Surveyor Jack E. Hausman of CPWG that's dated June 3rd of 2020. He provides in that document that it is his opinion that lots 5, 6, and 7 have still remained separated since the day they were platted in the Lakeview Terrace subdivision. Finally, we have the general warranty deed, which is in your packet as Exhibit 6. This is the deed that was brought forth when the applicant purchased these three properties on April of 2014. While all of these documents do show northern half of the three separate lots I identified earlier, lots 5, 6, and 7, there's no documentation, whether it's at the county, at the city, that was recorded or approved to ever show that lots 5, 6, and 7 were ever combined. So it's with that again, we believe there are three separate lots there owned by the applicant. In the 50s, 1950 and 1953 to be exact, the two homes were built within lots 5, 6, and 7. One in the southern half and one to the northern half. While there was a process that existed and still exists to combine these lots, one, as I mentioned earlier, was never pursued, never approved, or never recorded. As a result, in fact, the two structures that are located on lots 6 and 7 are considered non-conforming by the city because they don't meet setbacks. Additionally, I'll point out the lot to the east that's owned by Mr. Dennison, who I'm sure you'll hear from his attorney later, is in the same situation where it sits over 3 lots, lots 2, 3, and 4 of the same block. So again, considered a non-conforming situation by the city. To speed up in the timeline a little bit, fast forward to last summer, June 30th to be exact of 2020, the applicant of the property submitted a permit to the city requesting to build a single-family detached residential structure that was 1,330 square feet to be exact. With that request, they provided the attached site plan. And this, again, is on Lot 5 that we've referenced earlier. The site plan, as reviewed by staff, was to be in compliance with the dimensional standards of Chapter 94 in the Branson Municipal Code. I point out that it was able to meet setbacks for both side, rear, and front. As a result, as well as the earlier exhibit I showed you from CPWG and the other information that we took into consideration, we were able to issue a building permit to the applicant on October 15th of 2020. However, soon after construction started, the adjacent property owner, Mr. Dennison, reached out to staff, other officials at the city, to basically share his unhappiness or frustration with the situation. We talked with him multiple times, explained the situation to him, and how staff arrived at their reasoning for issuing a building permit. Construction continued up until April 7th of this year, 2021, when the city issued a stop work order on the property. And this was due to guidance from the city attorney because Mr. Dennison's attorney had brought a lawsuit litigation against the applicant. So as I said, we issued a stop work order and basically asked the applicant to go through the Board of Adjustment process and request a variance for lot size. Currently in code, in Chapter 94-37C, there's a table 94-37.1, that lists the minimum lot area for a property zone low-density residential to be 5,000 square feet. This lot happens to be 3,750 square feet. So as a result, the applicant's variance is for 1,250 square feet less than what's required by the standard I just provided. Based on all this information, staff has determined that this request meets the 4 criteria outlined in the Branson Municipal Code, Section 94-155D2A. And staff recommends granting a variance from Branson Municipal Code, Section 94-37C dimensions to allow a detached residential structure to be built within the existing lot located at 150 Malone Drive. That is approximately 1,250 square feet less than the code's minimum lot size for a property zone low-density residential. Granting the variance will allow the applicant to take advantage of the only allowed use within the existing property, and that is a single-family residence. There are no other permitted uses allowed for this property within the Branson Municipal Code, and no structure could be built on this property without this variance, because the lot's unique character necessitates the variance. That unique character is due to the subject property being established prior to the city's adoption of its current regulations pertaining to minimum lot size. Applying the city's minimum lot area requirement would completely prevent the applicant's use of their property for building purposes. And simply to end the staff report, I would ask for you all to accept our staff report along with exhibits 1 through 10, as well as the Branson Municipal Code in its entirety, which a copy is available in the city clerk's office. So if the board would be willing to accept those into the record.
We'll accept those on the record.
Thank you. I know the applicant is here as well as their representative, and so I want to give them a chance to speak as well.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the applicant and their representative regarding the requests. And please give us your name and address again.
Yes. My name is Tim Davis. My address, Box 1625, Branson, Missouri, 65616. If I may approach the members of the Board of Adjustment, I have a list of the exhibits that I brought here today. I have handed the Board of Adjustment a list of exhibits, and then I'm going to go over them. The exhibits give a history of this property in question. The first exhibit is the original plat from 1947. I brought a certified copy of the plat. Ben Parnell and Jean Parnell platted this subdivision originally in 1947. And were the original owners. Concerning the lots in question here, lots 5, 6, and 7, the second board gives the history of what happened to those lots. Beginning on the your left-hand side of the board, in 1950, the Parnells sold off lots 6 and lots 7 by 2 different deeds. The first deed from 1950 from Ben and Jean Parnell to Everett and Rebecca Gloyd for lot 6, and then the third exhibit, a deed from 1950 from Ben and Jean Parnell to Everett and Rebecca Lloyd for lot 7. The Gloyds then in 1952 sold to Dorwin and Patricia Kroom, that's our exhibit 4. In 1954, the Krooms sold to Harry and Esther Bernard for lots 6 and 7, that's our exhibit 5. In 1958, the Bernards sold to William and Thelma Hester, lots 6 and 7. That's our exhibit 6. And that gives the history of lots 6 and 7 up to 1958. Then as we come to lot 5, in 1959, Ben Parnell and Jean deeded to William and Thelma Hester the western 10 feet of lot 5, which is the lot we're talking about today. Then in 1960, Ben and Jean deeded to the Hesters the east 40 feet of lot 5. So by the 1960, William and Thelma Hester had controlled all of lot 5. Then in 1960, William and Thelma sell off the south half of lots 5, 6, and 7. And in 1962, William and Thelma sell off the north half of 5, 6, and 7, and that's shown here. And that's the way it's been since 1960, with one person owning the north half of these 3 lots, 5, 6, and 7, one person owning the south half of these lots, 5, 6, and 7. And if this was being done today, it wouldn't happen that way. If it was happening today, you'd get a replat. You'd have a surveyor drop a plat, and it would be, the lot lines would be adjusted, and the city would have to approve it. But given that it was 1960, obviously nobody thought about that. Then, the part of the code that's applicable here, which Joel has cited to you, the table 94.27, according to the city's code, that requirement was put in place in 2016 by ordinance 2016-0193. So again, we have the north and south half split in 1960, and then 56 years later, the ordinance comes in place that says the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet. So I have I'm going to urge a number of legal theories to the board about this. The first is that if it is correct that the lot size is, that you can say that somehow the lot 5 was split into a north and south half, and that the halves really are less than 5,000 square feet, if we interpret it that way, then I totally agree with Joel's rationale for granting the variance, that it makes the lot unbuildable and unusable. If, on the other hand, we say lot 5 was never split, and somehow there's a tenancy in common where one tenant in common owns the north half, one tenant in common somehow owns the south half, then a variance wouldn't be necessary because the lot would be full size. But the simplest way to deal with it is to say, without having to address that issue, the variance just cleans it up and makes sure that everything's kosher and everybody's happy. I do think that it would be, and I totally agree with Joel when he observed that imposing a 5,000 square foot requirement, if we interpret the lot as being less than 5,000 square feet, makes the lot unbuildable. I think it would amount to a regulatory taking that completely deprived any building opportunity from this lot, and which would be in violation of the 14th Amendment and also the 5th Amendment applicable to the states. All right, well, those are my comments. And and I do ask if the Board of Adjustment would please admit into evidence or admit into the record the 10 exhibits on the applicant's exhibit list, all of which we have certified copies from the Taney County Recorder.
Yes, we'll admit those in.
All right, thank you, Doug. And that concludes my comments.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant or for Mr. Davis?
I'd like to ask one. Is this the, as far as you're concerned, the only way to solve this issue is through the Board of Adjustment? I mean, this will clean the issue up.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Okay.
It settles all questions. So we don't have to address the fact, is the lot still 7,500 square feet, or is it now 3,750 square feet? Because as originally platted, lot 5 was 7,500 square feet. That plat's never been altered. So the variance just says, regardless of its size, whether we view it as 7,500 or 3,750, we're going to grant this variance just to clean it up and make sure that it's in compliance with our regs.
And then I think the neighbor who objects, and maybe some others in the subdivision, they're in the same predicament in terms of the lot sizes. Is that your understanding?
In terms of various aspects of non-compliance.
Building across property lines?
That's right. So you couldn't, most of what was built in this subdivision back in the 1960s, you could not build today under our current code. So it's a non-conforming use. Yes.
I want to clarify, and this may be a question for Joel. What was the 5, 6, and 7 on the plat map look to be relatively equal size, actually, 2 through 7. What was the square footage of those again?
Yes. Each one is 50 feet wide, measured east to west, and 150 feet long, measured north to south, so 7,500 square feet.
Okay.
And there's currently no home on the south half of Lot 5.
Right. But in that where we're building, where the structure is, or is there more room to build?
This would be on the, so currently, both the north half and the south half of Lot 5 do not have a home on them.
Oh, okay,
So on the, as sold, the property line runs east to west. But as platted, the property line runs north to south. And so currently on Lot 5, there's no home. Lots 6 and 7 have 2 homes on them. One on the north half, one on the south half. Thank you, Joel.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
And now we'll hear from anyone else regarding the request.
Mr. Vice Chairperson, I believe members of the public would now have the opportunity to speak.
Yeah, there we go.
Good evening, I'm Bruce Dennison. Yes. When infants are learning to talk, one of their first words are mine. When grade school children get a bike and someone else picks it up and takes it for a ride, the child says, hey, that's mine. When a high school or college student gets their first car and someone else damages it, I'm sorry. Very good. When a high school or a college student gets their first car and someone else damages it, the student owner says, hey, you damaged my car. When adults work for 40 years and save to purchase a home, and someone or something changes their surroundings, the homeowner says, you're changing my surroundings. November 4th, upon asking Joel what the zoning was for the homes in Iserman, Joel answered single family. I commented that the 530 Iserman home was divided into a duplex for renting, and another home was starting to be built in the backyard. The response I got was the back 50 feet of the yard was subdivided. My response was, so there'll be 3 unrelated people living on a lot that's zoned single family. Upon asking if I had missed a mailing or a hearing meeting, I was told the decision was an administrative decision. To subdivide a parcel to allow another 1,000 square foot home to be built in the backyard gives the appearance that the city is negating their own single family zoning. Asking when the zoning was done, the answer was the zoning was overhauled April 2018 by a consulting firm. Asking if there was any consideration of the neighbors' home values, there was no answer. Neighbors have asked me if I was building another garage. As I talked with neighbors, they were perplexed that no hearing or notice was given. Our input was taken away. The neighbor next door to 530 Iserman commented that she was having a 16 by 20 family room addition built on the back of her home, also commented their view was being taken away. The renter who works at Cox Hospital in the back half of the 530 Iserman duplex has her 7-year-old grandson visit on the weekends. The backyard he played in has been taken away. I've personally seen him playing along the curb in the street. Neighbors on Parnell were not pleased to learn about the density change. I heard from them, how is this going to affect the value of my home? Gentlemen?
I would ask that you please keep it to your viewpoints, not points of others.
Fine. My own residence to the west of the 530 Iserman has a concern about 10 to 14 inch wide water runoff causing a V in my lawn. Any ground absorption will be gone with a 1,000 square foot home on that lot of mine. and that's 6 feet from my lot line. Who are the winners? The city gets another property tax bill. Who are the losers? All the neighbors.
Is there anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
So help me God. My name is Rick Heiko. I do live on the Eiserman Street. I'm trying to build a small house, 1,050 square feet in a low-density neighborhood. House exactly fits in the requirements. 25 feet front, 15 feet setback, 5 feet on sides. That Eiserman neighborhood has been built in 1960s. These houses are old. Some of the houses, they don't even have a insulation. What I'm trying to do, build a new house. And it's a positive thing for Branson. Branson needs housing, people need housing, and the neighborhood needs update. You don't want to come tourists visiting and looking at old houses, mold-eating houses. I already built one house on Eiserman Street. It's a new house. American airline pilot bought it, improved the house. It's one of the nicest houses in the neighborhood. That neighborhood needs update, bring new people, bring new life. I do believe building this house brings ownership, new people. Half of the Eiserman Street is under property management. There is all kinds of rental property, all kinds of people live in a junkyard, bicycles, lawnmower in front of the houses. Nobody cares. I do believe ownership of this house or other houses brings different sort of people, people which cares about houses. I do believe strongly it's a positive thing for the city, for the citizen. They need housing, and the neighborhood needs update. It's just what I'm trying to do. I'm invested my own money there. The lot was screaming for something new, and I do not want to let kids playing on my yard because it's a big liability. There is a city park several feet away from that house, city park with a basketball game, tennis court. They can play there. And if Mr. Dennis wants to let kids play in there, he can let them play on his yard, but he doesn't. He's blaming me. So, like I said, there was an empty lot there, which nobody wanted to mow. Nobody cares about that lot. It was almost screaming for a new life. I am sure building a new house there, it's gonna bring more life in the neighborhood, and I am sure majority of the neighborhood welcome the new houses there. You know, these are people, like I said, I'm doing my best. I apply for the permit. House fits exactly in the city code. Environmentally friendly house. I don't see anything negative about these buildings and project. So, like I said, we live in the world right now. Houses going up. Branson needs new housing. Neighborhoods needs update, and people need housing too. If you tell me something negative, I would like to hear it. I'm a person which lands. If I made a mistake, I'm asking to fix it. If it's something negative, I will try to change it to positive. But I do believe in this project that it's a good thing, and let's finish it if we can. I do believe everybody could be happy with this new house there.
Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. The other house on the property, when was it built?
1960. It's a duplex. I think it's maybe zoning as a multi-zoning. I'm not sure. Maybe it's multi-zoning house. It's a duplex and has been built in 1960s.
The new house you're intending, is that to be sold or to be rented?
What-
Are you going to own the new house and rent it?
If I build a new house and I have a neighbor like this, sir, I would like to just leave that property and sold it as soon as possible. And I don't wanna, if you have people living next to you, which they can say hello, good morning, and they talking to you through the court, you don't wanna stay there, you don't wanna just move out or move on.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
There was one thing, my neighbor mentioned rainwater. There was a lot there, flat lot slope, which, building this house even is gonna help him because the guys built right trying to put a French drain around the house to retain the rainwater. And I think he's trying to, he was getting the rainwater anytime if the house is there or not. This house is gonna help him to retain it somehow, but you cannot order nature. He bought his house almost in a low elevation, almost in a ditch. I am sure he needs to put his own money and build a French drain around his house. That's what I did. I used to own 5 houses on Eisenman Street, and each house needed a French drain, which I built. And that's what he needs to do too. He cannot blame people around, not only me, but other neighbors, because he's getting rainwater there. But this house, new house, it's gonna have a French drain, so most of the water from this property, it's gonna go to the city drainage. But he's still getting water from my neighbor, but that's the way people speak, they just complain, they don't do anything about. Something needs to be done from his oven pocket. That's my word.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I think we had some other speakers.
Yes, helping out. My name is Hanna Haikova. I'm a wife of Rastislav Haiko, and I live on 513 Eiserman. I've been there for almost 10 years, and I just would like to thank everyone who actually showed up today, especially Joel and Tim. And I just want to say, our idea was to build another house. We built one on Eiserman Street, which actually we split it from the other house, and it was a buildable lot. So we built the one. We sell it to really good people who actually take care of the house. And we had another idea to build another house. It wasn't because of the money. It was just because we thought that lot would actually can be in a good use. But I'm just gonna skip a lot of stuff about the personal stuff, but I just think that this house gonna bring the value for the neighborhood, value for the houses that actually people own on Eiserman Street, because it's gonna be the new house. The benefits actually, this project benefits the neighborhood and the community also because people need new houses. And if it's gonna be in a smaller lot, it really doesn't matter because people would like to have really small lot. They don't really wanna mow the grass, especially if they live in a center of the city. They just wanna have a house. They don't wanna live in apartments. And if the house have a smaller lot, it's even better for them because they don't have to mow a lot of grass or they just don't wanna take care of it. So, and we have already a lot of people asking if we're gonna be selling this house. So the idea just build that. We applied for the permit from the city. So we got a permit, we've been approved, everything was set. So we start building, we invest our money in, and then that's what happened, came the lawsuit. So we stopped the building and asked Joel, what we can do, what we should do to, get this situation cleared. So he said, well, just ask for variance that should actually do, and everything would be happy. If we will get a variance, we can just start building again and sell the house and just be happy. And, we're not making the money. We just want to make the neighborhood better. It's just, we would like to bring more new people, good people, take care of the houses. We have few more properties on Eiserman Street, and I had a lot of people that were actually really happy that we've been taking care of the properties really well. So we've been always sure that the renters are actually paying the rent. They're good people. We're checking the renters if they have good history. So it's nothing like we're not careless. So we just really invest the people. And I don't see the point, we got a permit, we got all the stuff going on, we invest our own money, the half of the house is already built, so now what? We're gonna lose everything? There's no point. So we just ask you if you just can give us the variance and just finish this project and go live the life. That's all. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Come forward, state your name, and be sworn in. Yeah, come down to the microphone so they can pick you up.
Yes, I do, thank you. I'm Barbara Edwards, and I live at 519 Parnell Drive, which is directly east of Bruce, I guess. I'm catty-corner to the property. And so when I first saw it going up, I just thought, what's going on? You know, we didn't know. Have all of you driven by the property? Do you know where it is and everything? Okay, well, when the first house went up on Iserman, it's like, oh my, you know. And then when this one started up, it was like, we're getting squeezed here. I've been here 28 years, and, you know, it's kind of like, it would have been okay if it would have been a regular lot, but you left off 1,250 square feet, or the variance people did. And like Bruce said, there's no yard, there's 5 feet's not very much when you're right by your driveway. You know, this house was right by his driveway and right backs up to my house. And like he said, I agree that there's no place for the kids to play in that yard, and the parents might not want them to go over to the park by themselves. And it's just kind of making us feel squeezed. And, you know, I have nothing against them. They're our neighbors. We like them. We like their kids. We like their dog. And I'm sorry this happened, but we just feel like the lot is too small. And we wish the variance people would go take another look at it now that you know, some of the boards are up, and you can kind of see how we feel, because it blocks our view for one thing, but the lots are small anyway on Iserman. But on Malone, it's a half of the lot in the back. There's just no room any place. It just takes up the whole lot. So to me, it's kind of an eyesore. And, you know, I just don't want it there, of course. And I'm sorry if they don't get to finish their house, but the neighborhood really wants it removed. And there's lots of other land, lots of other lots in Branson. That's one good thing about it. Branson has lots of land and lots of places to build. So that's kind of where we stand. And thank you. Any questions?
Have any questions? Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak? Go ahead and come on down.
My name is Carolyn Mulkey, and I have,
You need to be sworn in first.
I do. I am currently remodeling a home that's for sale directly adjoining the property that we're talking about. And when it first started going up, I thought it was a shed. I thought, oh, they're putting a shed in the backyard.
Okay, what is your address then?
533 Parnell.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Joel, would
Nervous.
you be able to point that out on the map?
It's on the corner. Okay. It is where's the church? It's on that corner right there. The one with the green dot right there. On the triangle right there, that one. Correct. Okay. And there's so I guess I'm not directly, it's just yard, there's the neighbor's yard. It's kind of a weird setting that way, but it's just grass between us and them. And then, anyway, like I said, I thought it was a garage or a shed going up, and it looks like a garage or a shed was going up. And we're trying to sell the home that I'm remodeling. I'm not the owner. I work for the owner that is not here, but I'm not the owner. I'm just speaking for the owner. He's sitting there. But he basically trying to sell the home is just not in favor. We're not in favor of it, and that's all I have to say. Okay, that's good.
Testify about what you feel, but you
What I
can't
feel
testify what
is an
somebody else is
eyesore,
going to
and
do.
it's going to be hard to make our sell of the house harder, because it doesn't
Okay.
look good.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a point of order here. I'll direct this to Chris. This is really not a legal proceeding. I mean, we're not a court of law, so it would not be improper, I would say, for somebody to talk about some conversation they've had with somebody here. Would that be true?
What I will tell you is that this does have the potential to be appealed.
Yes, it
to a
does.
court. Yes, you can hear information. okay? Just like Mr. Davis, who represents Mr. Hodgko, can object to that information.
Right.
He can preserve that on the record so that if it does go up to a court of record, a court of appeal, that court can consider that information and give it the appropriate weight.
I would just say from my perspective, I would rather hear what people have to say today. And as Chris said, if somebody wants to object, that's fine. It's on the record, we'll understand that. But we're here to hear from people today and make the most informed decision we can. So if somebody's got something to say and it's not directly from them, but from somebody they've talked to, my view is we should hear that, because this is not a court of law. That's just my point of view.
Mr. Baker, maybe I'll make a suggestion that might resolve this, if Mr. Davis is agreeable to it. I have no objection to let everything come in. If there's something that either I feel is objectionable or Tim feels is objectionable, if this does go up on appeal, we could raise yet that issue and ask that those comments be stricken.
Exactly.
Satisfactory to you, Tim? I still think it's an error because you're admitting what's supposed testimony by somebody who isn't here. So I have no problem with people testifying to their own beliefs, own views, but when they start saying what their interpretation of someone else's feelings and someone else's viewpoint is obviously not valid because that other person isn't here to testify. There's no basis for me trying to testify on behalf of somebody else.
Can I chime back in real quick, Mr. Huddleston?
Yes, please.
To kind of layer on top of that. The reason for an objection, again, you have a 4-factor test that you're trying to apply to determine a variance, okay? That's laid out in city code, okay? At the conclusion of this, based on whatever your decision may be, you're gonna have to create a findings of fact. There's gonna have to be some legal conclusions and some factual conclusions. The fact that counsel is objecting to some of this information highlights its weight, if you will, or lack thereof, because it's inadmissible. So, again, I think it would potentially be an error not to allow an objection, not to allow that to be recorded as a part of the formal record when this does go up to the next level, if it does.
But, and I totally agree with that, Chris. But again, this is not a court of law here. This is a community forum that we're conducting.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that you limit the testimony.
Okay,
or
good,
anything
okay.
like that. It's just be
Well,
advised.
and I think it is proper that it be noted. So if Mr. Davis or Mr. Ingram have an objection. Okay. We can't hear you talk from the audience. I'm sorry. Back to you, Doug.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Yeah.
Terry Edwards. Yes, I do. Thank you, gentlemen, for allowing us to speak our piece here. I don't have all the technicalities, but I know Bruce does, and you probably do. But to verify that, my wife just spoke a little bit ago, 519 Parnell Drive, Barbara Edwards. We've had that home for probably 28, 29 years. And of course, at that time, when we bought it, we wanted a neighborhood that wasn't jammed up at the time. Maybe one house here, but whatever. But we want our property value to still stay up where it's at. But like Barbara said, these people are very nice people. I have no problem there. It's just what they're wanting to do. We don't mind people making profit. I like to make a profit too and make money. But when you jam up areas like where Parnell and Eiserman is and Malone Street, it's just, to me, not necessary. But I just ask that if it's an ordinance that says that it can't be done because of the lot size, that I ask you gentlemen to, look at that and approve it or not approve it, But I'm totally against it at this time. And again, thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you. You might have any questions? Go ahead.
Carolyn Boss. Yes, I do. My name's Carolyn Boss. I am a realtor. Here's my card that you can have. And I work for Weikert Realtors here in Branson. And I represent Rick and Hannah, and I've sold many of their properties, including a commercial property. I've known them for a year, and I find them to be very upfront, honest, and caring about how they do their transactions. They've always been very good with compliance of all paperwork, signatures, and things like that. The people that purchase their homes, they do an inspection. They know a lot of these homes are older, and so they are buying them with the intent of doing things to improve, because that's what we all want to do with our property values, is to improve them. And so I'm here to state not only the character of this couple, that they do things professionally and honorably and caringly, but also my professional opinion of a realtor, that it also increases our property values. My first house I sold for them was $525, which was the exact floor plan that they are building now. So that is in existence. You can see exactly the dimensions and what they're doing there. So 525, Iserman is on the Iserman side, just inside that limit. It's not there because your beacon is older and should be upgraded, because it is looking like an empty lot right now. So when it was built, the neighbors were saying, just as you've heard, oh, this is tight. But it's really not when it was built, because they've been improving it. And so, yes, it was a change for the better. And as things are coming along, property values are increasing. We sold the one next to it, 527. It closes tomorrow, by the way. You're more than welcome to come to the closing. It is a single mom and her children, which I believe I can say that not out of privacy, but out of saying the necessity of what we need here in Branson for housing for people. People just like our neighbors here today that have said, I moved to Branson for this reason. Fill in the reason. We all have one. I have a reason for moving here too. And when the lot was divided and built is a beautiful addition. I believe the same thing is going to happen here, that when it's already started, the foundation is there and some more excavation until it got halted, but it is going to be a nice addition across from the church to then say, okay, this is up and coming. There's several sellers along Iserman along the way. I can tell you that they're fixing it up and they're going to be selling it, and they're very happy at what we're getting for property values, price per square foot. Now that's super important, because when they want to go sell their home, they're going to be able to look at the comps that I have worked with on Hannah and Rick to bring in these buyers to improve the neighborhood. And so and even the appraisers that are coming in here are agreeing with the assessments of higher. In fact, 523 just got appraised, and it was appraised for a lot higher than it was built at. So I'm here today to ask you, to the board, to go ahead and move forward. We have an inventory shortage in Branson. Inventory shortage. That means we have so many buyers that want to buy, they don't know what to buy because it isn't on the market. And here, the builders have 6-9 months, up to a year waiting to build. You know, the cost of wood and cost of labor. And so I'm saying to the board, there's reason, there's precedence, there's a demand, and it's inside the city limits, and we are urban. We are urban. It might not be an urban Chicago, but it's an urban Branson. And that I'm very proud of. We've got all kinds of diversity, all kinds of inclusion, and wonderful neighborhoods. She mentioned that there was plenty of land to buy. I will say that the Lakewood Terrace is high desirability, and it is nothing for sale as far as land goes. So And the neighbor is not quite correct on that. There is land in other places of Branson, but it might not have the neighbors that care so much about their property like they do, and like all the neighbors do. I've knocked on the doors, I've met them. Everybody loves being there, whether they're renting or buying or downsizing or coming in with their boats. So I would just want to say that I think that this is a good thing. And I hope that you've seen some of the values of that, and I will take any questions if you have any. And by the way, there's 5 pending properties inside the subdivision right now. When they come up, it's less than 2 weeks and they're sold. The same thing will happen when the house is built, and people will look at it and they'll say, okay, this is what we're getting for this. And there is a market for it.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you. No, it's, that question I don't believe is appropriate at this time.
Okay, I didn't know if, I just saying, is there rules that they can build, people can build on any lot?
Mr. Chair,
No.
I would recommend if she wants to speak and you feel that's appropriate for her to speak, to have her come down to the podium.
If you want to speak, you can come down.
Well, that's why we're here. They got city limits, they followed the rules, they're here, and we are here as saying there is a need. So, any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your kindness.
Anybody else have any additional questions?
I do. I'm Eric Leonard. I'm here representing my parents and a person who's contracting on my house right now. I live on the corner lot there of 533 Parnell Drive. And my whole question is, of the parameters of when my father and I were looking up all the what you all say are city codes and everything on percentages of front yard, backyard, and all this stuff. This is a lot that's been divided, and the divided lot does not meet any of the requirements for the present house or the house being built. So that means the house across the street on Malone, which I'm not sure what that address is, they could build a small house over there. Does that, you know, my question is that, can they put a small little house over there? Could Bruce put another house in the front of his house? On my lot, could I build, you know, I've got one of the largest lots there, could I build another house there? It just seems very crammed, and yes, there's a lot of property out there, and this is a desirable neighborhood. I understand that completely, but you've got to look at, why is it desirable? Because they have the large lots, and when you drive by the house, it is looking at all the houses down Iserman on both sides. They have all nice backyards. That one, the present house in the corner, will have no backyard, and the house being built has no backyard. So that's where I think it will bring the property values down. And so, I mean, just by looking at the parameters that the city has provided, it doesn't meet the parameters.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions or statements?
I do, if nobody else does.
You have one right behind you.
Oh, okay.
So help me God. Okay, my name is Chris Gearing. I live at Chris Gearing, doesn't matter.
Can you spell it?
Goering. So I live across the street from these last people on 530 Parnell, right up there. The old Cox house, is what some people say. I am just want to be on record that I also oppose this variance. So my thing is if we're going by the lot lines defined in the 1940s and 1950s that are completely different by the previous slide, the red versus the yellow lines, then if other properties in Lakewood Estates could use lots defined in the 1940s and 1950s, and as in essence voiding today's 2021 building codes, if this variance goes through, then more variances will be asked for. So piggybacking on the last gentleman, this will be an issue moving forward with people asking for more variances. So, so this property in question has currently a duplex on it and a proposed single-family home. So when these people eventually look to sell these houses, will they sell the duplex and single-family house together as one property, as according to the lot line defined on this picture right here? Or will it be subdivided once again? And why couldn't anybody in Lakewood Estates do the same thing? So my question is, why wouldn't Lakewood Estates continue to get subdivided as smaller lots and smaller lots? And that's the reason why I oppose this variance.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Going forward. Comments? Go ahead.
I do. My name's Don Ingram. I'm a lawyer here in town. My office at 119 West Pacific here in Branson. I was kind of interested in the way this thing has progressed. I thought it was Joel presented his, the applicant presented theirs. Those who wanted to speak against it perhaps presented theirs. It sounds like we've kind of jumped all over, but at least I think we're getting everything out on the table. One thing, I'm going to make a few general random comments to start with in light of the things that have been set up to this point. Number one, the house at 525 Iserman that the realtor spoke about just so happens to be the last page in the exhibit that I gave you, exhibit number 2. One striking difference between that home and the home that we're here talking about today is that lot is 50 by 160. So that's 8,000 square feet. The lot that they're trying to put this home on is 50 by 75 or 3,750 square feet. That's a substantial difference. And I assume that they met the side yard requirements. The odd thing about this, I guess this is in front of me here, when this map was done, Mr. Hadsko and Mr. Hadsko owned lots 36, 37, 38, and 39. And then he built on lot 38, that's 525 Iserman, and that was sold to the Applers, I believe was their name. And I really question, I don't know whether there was a survey done and that was staked, but based on a prior aerial of that area, it looked like the house was on lot 37 extended over onto lot 38, but since everybody owned the same thing, or Mr. Hadsko owned the whole thing, it made no difference. I really doubt that they've met the setbacks on the side yard requirements for that. The other thing that I will comment on is that, and I didn't want to get personal, but Mr. Hadsko started to get personal.
The reason he doesn't have kids swimming in his or playing in his backyard, he has a swimming pool back there, according to the beacon aerial that I've seen, unless he's removed it since that aerial was taken. So they probably would not want children in his backyard, or his insurance company wouldn't want kids back there.
Okay, taken under advisement.
Okay, I'll go ahead from there. Also, if you will take a look, when I gave the board a summary of kind of a timeline of this. I had asked early on that this be included in the board packet, and that was refused. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing and demanded that it be put in there. And finally, it was put on that internote, or on the, sent out to you by email. If you will look at, there's a blue divider between each of these sections, and there's one that says correspondence between Ingram and city officials. You can take a look and see what I had to do to even get that initial email out to you, or this sheet that I gave you. On this summary, there are a couple of things that are inaccurate, and everything that I'm talking about is including this in this Exhibit 2. I've tried to highlight certain parts of it. Number one, according to the assessor's office, that duplex was built in 1953. Mr. Davis gave you a kind of a chain of title from the time this subdivision was platted. He stopped about where I started. And you will also see a section that has a blue marker in front of it that says county assessors and recorders information. And that goes from the time the Hesters got it until down to the time that Mr. and Mrs. Hadjko have it. Lots 5, 6, and 7 have been conveyed every time as one unit, not a separate unit. So when I say 5, 6, or 7, the north half of 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, and 7 was split at one time, according to the information Mr. Davis gave you, which I assume is correct because I did not go back that far. The south side of 5, 6, and 7 was conveyed out first, and the north side of 5, 6, and 7 was conveyed out later. And since 1959, when Mr. and Mrs. Hester got all of 5, 6, and 7, that has all been conveyed as one parcel. It's never been divided up. And if there were weeds growing in the backyard, it's because Mr. Hadjko wasn't mowing the weeds on his rental property. If you look at the right past the requested material to be sent to Board of Adjustment that I gave you, it shows where Mr. Dennison's house is. It's the one that says Four Winds Trust. The Four Winds building site is shown, and the Hadjko existing home, that's the duplex. I would like to piggyback on what Mr. Leonard said. If you look at the rest of those homes on the east side of Iserman, they all have backyards. 530 Iserman, which is now Mr. Hadjko is trying to subdivide, had a backyard at one time, and now he's wanting to take it away. I really appreciate their concern for the neighborhood and wanting to improve it, but to the contrary, they're running the neighborhood down by making it so compact. As Mr. Gehring or Mr. Goring commented, you know, who's going to come here next and want to build something else on their lot because they want to make a little bit of money. And that's what this is all about. Make no mistake about it. The other thing, I've got an affidavit in here that Mr. Hornicle gave us for the lawsuit that we filed. We finally filed that lawsuit January 11th. And I was trying constantly to get the city to issue a stop work order. Everything I filed with the court, I copied Mr. Liebeck on. He knew exactly what was going on in this case. Finally, on April 4th, I filed what's called a motion for summary judgment. And what that basically means in a legal sense is that even if everything Mr. Hadjko has said is true, he still loses. And then on April 8th is when the stop work order was finally issued. Interestingly enough, April 7th was the date that Mr. Hadjko filed for his application for a variance to this board, and it's after I'd suggested to Mr. Liebeck that that's what he should have done to start with, and he shouldn't have even started building. Mr. Hornicle made a serious mistake. He had no authority to issue a building permit on this lot of 3,750 square feet when the lot size that was required for low-density residential was 5,000 square feet. And when Mr. Hadjko bought this property back in 2014, at that time, the minimum lot requirement was 7,500 square feet. So he bought into a problem. If he's complaining now, well, this is not fair, or I should be given an opportunity to do this or do that. I think that's probably the main thing I have. There's nothing that Mr. Hadjko has done here that entitles him to any variance from this board. It'd be a mistake, and it'd be a travesty to do this, not only for the city, but for these people that live in this neighborhood. And if there's going to be a change in the lot size in this low-density residential district, then it should be done by the Board of Aldermen by amending the zoning code instead of excuse the expression, some administrative official issuing a code that he had no authority to enter or to issue. And then when I finally filed the motion for summary judgment, I think the light went on that said, hey, maybe we made a mistake, and let's tell Mr. Hadjko to do what he should have done to start with. For that reason, we would request that this variance be denied. He's not entitled to it, he doesn't meet the statutory requirements, and there's no reason that he should receive it.
Thank you. Any members have any questions? Okay, at this time, everybody that's present and wishing to speak has been given an opportunity to speak unless there's, okay.
One other item, I have Exhibit 1 here. I gave the court reporter. I didn't make additional copies of it. But these are people who signed a letter in opposition to this variance and the home being built. If anybody wants to look at it.
Mr. Chairman, I think it.
So admitted.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's customary for the applicant's attorney to respond to the attorney that's opposing. And so I would like to hear from Mr. Davis.
Mr. Davis, go ahead.
May I make one comment first? That's just a further indication of Mr. Lawson's bias, and he can go ahead and speak, but I want that in the record.
Okay, so noted.
I just want to reiterate that Joel quite clearly articulated at the start of this proceeding the rationale for granting a variance, and I totally agree with the staff report and with what Joel said. Again, the residents may be unhappy about the lot sizes that were plotted back in 1947, but that's what got platted back in 1947. And even though in the intervening decades, many things were built that would not conform to current codes, such as selling off, for example, selling off the north half of lots 5, 6, and 7, separate from the south half of lots 5, 6, and 7. It's improper to take a zoning ordinance enacted in 2016 or 17 and 18 and try to retroactively impose lot size requirements newly enacted on previously platted and formed properties. And to do so would be a regulatory taking in violation of the 5th and 14th Amendment rights, a taking without due process and without compensation. Don referenced, for some reason, the lawsuit that had been filed. I should point out, in that same lawsuit, I filed what's called a motion for judgment on the pleadings, stating that there is no private right of action under Missouri law. So Mr. Dennison can't make himself his own sheriff and come up with his own interpretation of what he thinks the law ought to be and impose it on everyone around him. And that for that reason, the court has to enter judgment on behalf of my client. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much for your attention.
Thank you.
May I make one other comment since we're talking about the lawsuit, Mr. Baker?
Sure.
Mr. Davis is wrong on the law, and we'll see what happens in that lawsuit.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, anybody else wish to speak? Okay.
My point is just, we filed for the permit, we got a permit, we start building it, we invest our own money, and now we asking you if you can give us the variance because I think that's gonna fix it. I know that people don't like it because it's on a small lot, but even now we thinking we're gonna build a fence around that property, so if someone would have a fence around it now, actually they would not see the property from their properties. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you kind of think, like if we build a fence right there, so Mr. Bruce would actually look at the fence anyway. So there is now actually a point like why this house shouldn't be built, because if we build a fence there, so they cannot look in a backyard, and it doesn't matter if it's small or big because they will not see it. And how I said, like, people don't need a big lot. There's some people who actually want to, they just live by themselves, they don't have kids, you know, or just one person live in a house and they don't want to have a big lot to take care of. They just want to live in a house. They don't want to live in an apartment complex. And that was our idea. And I think, like, if you will not give us the variance, I don't know what we're going to do because we already invest our money. So who's going to give us the money back? Like, how are we going to do this? Like, we need to fix it. We need to fix it by the legislatively. So the only way to do it, to get a variance. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, go ahead.
I just want to mention something in general. When I moved in 1999 to Branson, I do remember a time when in the city hall people were voting for the Branson landing. 3/4 of the city hall people saying, we don't want it here. We don't like it here. There was just the muddy land there. Nobody approved it. City approved the project, Branson landing, but citizens, 3/4 of the citizens were against it. Where would Branson be today if the Branson landing wouldn't be there? You know, you have revenue, you have tourists coming in. It's an icon of the Branson. Same I'm gonna say about my house. Some neighbors are against it, but when the house is gonna be built, it's gonna be nice, bringing a life to neighborhood, and it's a positive things for the Branson. Housing and people there. And I wanna mention the backyard. People don't like big backyards today. 15 feet setback, city required, it's there, that should be. These setbacks with a house, which I'm built, it's a small house, it fits exactly with the city requirement. It's nothing big, it's a small house which fits in a low density of the neighborhood. That's why.
Any other questions?
One more comment in light of that.
Go ahead.
And it'll be very short. Joel can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think even a medium-density residential area, the minimum lot size requirement is 4,000 square feet. That's like the houses that are going up there just south of the library. That's a medium-density area. If he wants to build a medium-density house, he needs to go to a medium-density area.
Anybody else wish to speak? Okay, at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the floor for discussion between board members. If necessary, you all may ask questions of the staff or clarifying questions of the staff, the applicant, or anyone else that's spoken.
I have a question for Joel. how likely are we to see something like this in this or other neighborhoods again?
So you all, each application is unique and different.
Right.
So each application has to answer the 4 questions that are provided in code as to why a variance should be approved by you all.
That's not what I'm asking though, Joel. What I'm asking is, we've got a situation where these lots have been perceived to be a single lot, when in fact it's a string of 3 half lots. You know, process got short-circuited or truncated generations ago, before most of us were born. No, yeah, except for Mr. Babcock. And I get that, you know, I've been around a while, and I know that the way cities try to operate now is not the way they operated in the 40s and 50s and 60s. So I'm just asking, based on your experience and your knowledge of transactions in the past, how likely are we to see this sort of situation crop up again?
Again, to your point about experience and the applications we see come through the Planning and Development Department, you know, housing, there is a need, but yet it is rare that people are seeking out the opportunities in our existing core neighborhoods, those that are around the downtown, for opportunities like this. Instead, what we're seeing is more regularly builders looking at subdivisions north and west sides of town where there was a surplus of subdivisions that were created 10, 15 years ago and never built out due to the economic downturn. Now those are quickly filling up. And so I would anticipate, probably as we move forward and get to the future, there may be more people looking for these opportunities. College Street is another example where someone took vacant property and saw the opportunity to add 7, 8 homes to that neighborhood and fill in an otherwise vacant area of the community and take advantage of the existing infrastructure and the convenient locations to the downtown.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does any other board members have any questions? Okay, at this time, I will entertain a motion regarding board action on the filed variance.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve that the applicant's requested variance from Branson Municipal Code Section 94-37C for property located at 150 Malone Drive.
Is there a second?
I can second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yes. I will have some. If
Okay.
Nobody else does.
Go.
This is a situation that, I mean, it's very unfortunate that we're here. It's not going to be an easy decision for any of us. What we're looking at are we've got a conflict between individual ownership rights and community standards. The problem is the community standards that we have today are not what the community standards were when this land was platted back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. How we go back and retroactively apply that now is difficult. I wish that somewhere along the line that in one of these various transactions over the last 30, 40, 50 years, somebody had cleaned this mess up then, but that didn't happen, so it's up to us to clean it up now. That makes it a tough choice for us. Do ownership rights supersede community standards? I'd say generally not, if the community has an opportunity to process through that and create zoning regulations and lot size limitations and so on. In this particular case, that didn't happen. So I think we've got a tough choice to make here, but I intend to vote in favor of the variance.
Okay, anybody else have any further discussion? Okay, no discussion appearing, we'll call for a vote.
Call a vote. Vice Chairperson Baker,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Huddleston,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
Thurkel.
Yes.
All in favor. The motion is carried.
Okay, this concludes the items that's scheduled on the Board of Adjustment meeting. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, call for a vote to adjourn?
Baker,
Yes.
Babcock,
Aye.
Huddleston,
Yes.
Lawson,
Aye.
Thurkel.
Yes.
All in favor.
The meeting of the Board of Adjustment is adjourned.